I'd been cleaning office buildings for 15 years, and not once had I ever found anything more valuable than an old wristwatch or forgotten phone charger. But that Tuesday night in October changed everything. My name is Reuben Thorne, and I was mopping the 23rd floor of the Meridian Financial Building when my mop hit something wedged under the corner of a mahogany desk. It was a leather wallet. Heavy. I opened it, expecting to find maybe a few cards or an ID. Instead, my breath caught. $10,000 in crisp $100 bills, neatly stacked, along with a business card and a yellowed photograph of two young boys standing in front of a house I hadn't seen in decades. My childhood home. For a long moment, I just stood there staring at the photo, my reflection dimly visible in the office window. My life hadn't exactly been kind to me. I'd been living paycheck to paycheck, juggling 2 jobs just to pay rent on a 1-room apartment. That $10,000 could change everything. Rent for months, a chance to fix my car, maybe even a way out of the life I'd been stuck in for years. But my father, the man who'd raised me to believe that honesty was worth more than gold, echoed in my mind. Son, if something doesn't belong to you, don't let it stay in your hands too long. So I decided to do the right thing. The address on the business card read 4782 Maple Grove Lane, my old neighborhood. My heart pounded as I realized it was the same house I'd grown up in before Dad moved us away when I was 8. I didn't know it yet, but returning that wallet would uncover a secret buried for over 30 years. One that would tear apart everything I thought I knew about my family and myself. I must have sat in my car for an hour that night, the wallet on the passenger seat like a bomb waiting to go off. Every time I looked at it, my mind swung between 2 voices. One whispering, "Keep it, no one will know," and another that sounded just like my father saying, "Doing right isn't about being watched." I turned the wallet over in my hands again. The leather was smooth, expensive, the kind of thing someone who didn't blink at losing $10,000 would own. But it wasn't the cash that had me shaking. It was that photo. 2 boys in front of a house I hadn't seen in 30 years. One of them was me, no question. Same nose, same crooked smile. But the other boy? I couldn't place him. The business card said Clifton R. Thorne, Private Consulting, Maple Grove Lane, Thorne. My last name. Coincidence? No way. The drive to Maple Grove was a blur of headlights and nerves. I hadn't been back since my father packed us up in the middle of the night when I was 8. He never explained why, just said, "We're not safe here, son," and we left everything behind. Toys, photos, even the house dog. As I turned down the old street, my stomach tightened. The houses looked smaller now, but Maple Grove Lane hadn't changed much. Number 4782 still stood at the end of the cul-de-sac, same peeling blue shutters, same front porch light that flickered weakly in the dark. I parked at the curb and sat there for a moment, staring at the front door. Every instinct screamed that this was a bad idea, but curiosity, and something deeper, something I couldn't name, pushed me forward. The moment my hand touched that doorknob, I felt a strange pull, like stepping back into a dream I'd forgotten. The door creaked open before I could even knock. A man stood there. He froze. I froze. It was like looking into a distorted mirror. The same sharp jawline, same eyes, same scar above the right eyebrow from when I fell off my bike at 7. Only he was older, maybe in his 50s. His face went pale as he gripped the door frame. "Dear God," he whispered. "Reuben, is that really you?" I stumbled back. "Do I know you?" He blinked fast, like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. "It can't be. Dennis said you were—" He stopped himself, swallowing hard. I frowned. "Dennis? My father? How do you know his name?" He rubbed his face, shaking his head in disbelief. "Because Reuben, Dennis was my brother." The world tilted. My knees nearly buckled. "You're what?" He stepped closer, his voice trembling. "I'm Clifton, your uncle. Your father's twin brother." The words hit harder than any punch. My dad never told me he had a brother. Not once. Not in all those nights when we talked about family, or the past, or why he'd left Maple Grove. "Why didn't he ever tell me?" I asked, my voice cracking. Clifton's eyes filled with tears. "Because he wanted to protect you. From what?" He looked away for a moment, his hands trembling as he leaned against the door frame. "From the truth," he said finally. "From me." I didn't know whether to run, scream, or ask more. Everything about that night felt impossible, like I'd stepped into a story that wasn't mine. But it was, and deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. He gestured for me to come in. The house smelled the same, old wood and faint lemon polish. But it was colder, emptier, as though time had stopped the day we left. "You look just like him," Clifton said softly. "Same stubborn eyes. Why didn't anyone tell me you existed?" He sighed. "Because some secrets, Reuben, can destroy everything." And as he said those words, I didn't realize yet that the secret he was about to share would change the entire course of my life and force me to question everything I ever believed about my father. Clifton motioned for me to sit at the kitchen table. The same old oak table I remembered from childhood, now scratched and faded. The air was thick, heavy with ghosts of memories I didn't know I still had. I sat there, my hands trembling as I tried to piece things together. My dead uncle, was standing right in front of me. The man my father swore had died decades ago. Start talking, I said quietly. I need to know everything. Clifton's expression was torn between relief and guilt. He ran a hand through his graying hair and took a deep breath. Your father and I were inseparable once. Twins, identical in every way, but not in the choices we made. We built this house together, shared everything, until money came between us. He paused, his voice trembling as though every word hurt to say. We started a cleaning company when we were barely 20. It grew fast. By 30, we were signing contracts with corporations across Detroit. But then, I made a deal with someone I shouldn't have. I frowned. What kind of deal? A man named Victor Lansing, he said bitterly. He was tied to organized crime, laundering money through small businesses. I thought I was being smart, helping us grow faster. Dennis, your father, found out. He begged me to stop. When I didn't, he turned me in. My chest tightened. He betrayed you? No, Clifton said, shaking his head slowly. He saved me, but I didn't see it that way. The night before the arrest, I came here, this house, furious. We fought. Things got violent. I stormed out, swore I'd never see him again. That was the last time we spoke. He looked down at the floor, his voice barely a whisper. The next morning, the papers said I'd been killed in a warehouse fire. It was Victor's men. They were cleaning up loose ends. I stared at him, stunned. But you're alive, he nodded. Barely. I survived because Dennis helped fake my death. He knew they'd come for me, and for you. He sent you and your mother away that same night. Changed your names, burned every record. My heart pounded in my ears. He lied to me my entire life. He did, Clifton admitted softly, but not out of malice. Out of love. He didn't want you dragged into the mess I created. The room fell silent except for the faint ticking of a wall clock. My head was spinning. Every memory of my father, every story, every half-truth, suddenly felt like a piece of a puzzle I hadn't realized existed. Finally, I asked the question that had been burning in my mind since I found the wallet. Then why did I find your wallet in my building? And why now? Clifton looked at me for a long moment before reaching into his pocket and pulling out a folded letter. Because Dennis wanted you to. My hands shook as I took it. The handwriting was unmistakable. My father's. I unfolded it carefully. Reuben, if you're reading this, then I'm gone. There's something you need to know. The man who left you that wallet, my brother, isn't your enemy. He's your blood. And he's the only one who can tell you the truth about what I did to protect you. I swallowed hard as tears blurred the ink. Clifton's voice softened. He knew you'd find it eventually. I placed that wallet in your building 2 weeks ago. I just didn't expect it to reach you so soon. I looked up at him, my pulse racing. You planted it? He nodded. Because you deserve to know what your father couldn't bring himself to say. The truth about what happened the night you left this house? I leaned forward, my heart thundering. What happened that night? He hesitated, eyes glistening. Your father didn't just leave to protect you. He left because someone was coming for you both. A chill ran down my spine. Who? Clifton's voice broke as he whispered. Victor Lansing never stopped looking for revenge. And with that, the world I thought I knew unraveled completely. The room seemed to shrink around me as those words left Clifton's mouth. Victor Lansing never stopped looking for revenge. I gripped the edge of the table, my palms slick with sweat. What do you mean he's still looking for revenge? My father's been dead for years. Clifton's eyes darkened. Your father didn't die the way you think, Reuben. What you were told, it wasn't the full truth. The floorboards creaked as he stood and moved toward an old wooden cabinet by the wall. He opened the top drawer and pulled out a stack of faded photographs. Some burned around the edges, others folded and worn thin. He laid them out in front of me. Each one showed the same thing. 2 young men, identical twins, smiling in front of a white truck with Thorne & Sons Cleaning painted on the side. My father and Clifton, before everything went wrong. Clifton tapped one of the photos. That was taken 3 days before the fire. We had no idea that Victor had already started planning his retaliation. When I disappeared, your father thought it was over. He thought faking my death meant the danger was gone. But it only made Victor angrier. I swallowed hard. So he came after my father? Yes, Clifton said quietly. But not right away. He waited. Years passed, and your father rebuilt his life. He married your mother, started over. But Victor's people were patient. They watched from a distance. And when they realized your father was trying to get back into business, to start again under a new name, they made their move. He looked me dead in the eye. The night you and your mother left this house, you didn't just move. You escaped. My pulse quickened. Escaped what? The fire, he whispered. I froze. He continued. Victor sent men here that night. Your father got a call warning him. One of his old employees who'd overheard the plan. Dennis told your mother to take you and run. He stayed behind to buy time. I shook my head slowly. You're telling me my father knew they were coming? He stayed on purpose? Yes, Clifton said, his voice breaking. He set the fire himself to make them think you were all dead. He burned everything. The records, the photos, the business papers, anything that tied him to me or Victor. He thought if they believed he'd perished, they'd stop hunting you. My throat tightened. So he sacrificed himself. Clifton nodded, his eyes glistening. He did, but it worked for a while. Victor's operation crumbled a few years later when the feds closed in. I thought it was safe to resurface, but I was wrong. I could barely speak. My father, the man I'd thought had lived and died an ordinary life, had burned his own world down just to keep me safe. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I demanded, my voice trembling. You let me think he just died in some accident. You let me clean offices and live paycheck to paycheck while you hid this? Clifton's expression hardened with guilt. I wanted to, but Victor still has people, powerful people even now. The money in that wallet wasn't just cash, Reuben. It's bait. I frowned. Bait? He leaned forward. Inside that wallet, there's something else. A small metal key taped beneath the lining. Did you see it? My mind flashed back to when I'd found the wallet. I hadn't checked under the lining. My stomach turned. Clifton's voice lowered. That key opens a locker at the old Union Rail terminal downtown. Inside is the one thing your father left behind. The evidence that could finally end Victor's legacy for good. But you have to be careful. If you go after it, they'll know. The walls seemed to close in. My father's death, the lies, the fortune, the key, it all felt too big, too dangerous. I looked up at Clifton. Why me? Why now? He sighed. Because they're already looking for you, Reuben. Someone found out you discovered the wallet. I saw a car outside your building last night. Tinted windows, engine running. They know. My blood ran cold. Clifton's next words sent a chill down my spine. We have to leave. Tonight. We left the house just past midnight. The city was quiet. Too quiet. As Clifton and I drove in silence through back streets slick with rain. The windshield wipers beat like a nervous heart, steady and anxious. He'd packed 2 duffel bags, one filled with old documents and another with cash. I didn't ask where the money came from. I was still reeling from everything he'd told me. The fire, my father's sacrifice, the key hidden in the wallet. Union Rail Terminal, Clifton muttered, his hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles were white. It's been shut down for years, but your father chose it for a reason. No one goes there anymore. We passed under flickering streetlights, each flash revealing the tension etched into his face. I could feel something dark sitting between us. The kind of silence only secrets could fill. I reached into my pocket and pulled out the wallet. It was still slightly damp from the rain earlier that evening. My fingers searched along the inside lining, and there it was, a faint ridge. I tore it gently, and a tiny silver key fell into my hand. Got it, I whispered. Clifton glanced over, then gave a small, bitter smile. Your father never did anything halfway. That key. It's the last thread connecting him to this whole mess. When we reached the terminal, the place looked abandoned, a hollow skeleton of iron beams and broken glass. The giant clock above the entrance was frozen at 2:47, maybe the same time it stopped ticking years ago when the train stopped running. We stepped inside, flashlights cutting through the dark. The air smelled of rust and old rain. Somewhere in the distance, water dripped rhythmically from the ceiling, like the heartbeat of a dying place. The lockers were lined up along one wall, their paint peeling, numbers faded. We searched row after row until we found it. Locker 1124. My hands shook as I inserted the key. It clicked softly, the sound echoing in the emptiness. I hesitated, then pulled the door open. Inside was a small fireproof briefcase. Black, heavy, dusty. Clifton took it out and set it on a nearby bench. He looked at me. Once we open this, there's no going back. I nodded. I've already lost everything that made me who I was. What else can they take? He flipped the latches. Inside were stacks of old papers, contracts, bank receipts, and photos. But the one thing that caught my attention was a flash drive taped to the lid. Clifton carefully peeled it off and held it up. This is it, he said. Your father's insurance policy. What's on it? He sighed. Proof that Victor wasn't just running a business. He was laundering money through shell companies across Europe. If this gets out, it'll bring down what's left of his empire. Before I could respond, the faint crunch of gravel echoed from outside. Clifton's head snapped toward the sound. His eyes widened. "They're here. We killed the flashlights instantly." The terminal went dark, except for the pale glow of moonlight bleeding through shattered windows. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Deliberate. Clifton motioned for me to stay low as he crouched near the locker rows, pulling a pistol from his coat. I hadn't even realized he was armed. Two shadows appeared near the entrance. One of them spoke, a deep voice, calm and cold. "Reuben Thorne," it called out. "You shouldn't have opened that locker." The words sent a chill crawling up my spine. "They knew my name," Clifton whispered. "Run." But my legs wouldn't move. Another voice followed. "Your father burned everything once. You won't get the same chance." Suddenly, a flashlight beam sliced through the darkness, sweeping across the hall, landing directly on us. "Go!" Clifton shouted. He fired once. The gunshot thundered through the terminal, echoing like a scream. I bolted, clutching the briefcase to my chest, sprinting through the rows of lockers as bullets shattered the silence. Metal rang. Sparks flew. My lungs burned. Clifton's voice roared behind me. "Don't stop, Reuben. No matter what happens." I burst through a side door into the rain-soaked night, breathless and terrified. And then I heard it. One final gunshot that wasn't mine. The echo lingered. I turned back, but Clifton didn't come out. Not yet. Not ever. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed Clifton's every word. The deal gone wrong, my father's betrayal, the years of silence between two brothers who once shared everything. But what haunted me most was his voice trembling when he said, "There's more you don't know, Reuben. Your father did what he did. To save you, save me from what?" At 3 a.m., I got up from the small guest bed and walked down the creaking hallway toward my father's old study. The door was half open, the smell of leather and dust filling the air. I turned on the lamp, the same green-shaded one I remembered from childhood, and started searching. The room was filled with memories. An old typewriter, faded invoices, a broken pocket watch, and hundreds of yellowing papers. But then, behind a stack of tax records, I found a small metal box with the initials CT engraved on it. Clifton Thorne. The box was locked, but years of janitorial work had taught me a few tricks. I used a screwdriver from the desk drawer, pried open the latch, and found a bundle of envelopes tied with twine. On the top was one with my name written in my father's handwriting. I tore it open. "Reuben, if you're reading this, it means you found your way back. There are things I couldn't tell you while I was alive. Truths that would have destroyed what little family we had left. Clifton isn't dead. I sent him away to protect him, and to protect you. 30 years ago, we were involved in something we couldn't walk away from. I tried to fix it, but when I learned they were after my son, I did the only thing I could. I lied." My hands shook. My father had lied to save me? The money wasn't stolen, Reuben. It was payment blood money. They wanted me to disappear, to take the blame for what Clifton uncovered. He found evidence that could have destroyed one of the biggest real estate empires in Detroit. Men who built their fortunes on laundering cartel money. They wanted him dead. So I staged his death and raised you away from that world. If you ever find him, tell him I never stopped loving him." The letter ended there, but inside the box were more documents. Photos, bank receipts, and an old map marked with red ink. The map pointed to a location on the edge of the city, an abandoned warehouse. I took a deep breath and sat back, staring at the letter. All this time, I'd thought my father was just an honest man who died of a heart attack, but he'd been living a double life. One filled with danger, secrets, and sacrifice. The floorboards creaked behind me. Clifton stood in the doorway, eyes wide. "You found it." I held up the letter. "Why didn't you tell me the truth?" He sighed, stepping closer. "Because I wasn't sure you'd forgive either of us. Your father made enemies, powerful ones. The men we crossed still control half this city. If they find out you know the truth, you'll be in danger." I stared at him, heart pounding. "Then why did you let me come here?" "Because," he said softly, "it's time to finish what your father started." Lightning flashed through the window, illuminating the old study. The two of us on mirror images separated by decades, stood in silence, knowing that what came next could either destroy us or finally bring justice to the name we both carried. And somewhere deep down, I realized that finding that $10,000 wallet wasn't an accident. It was the beginning of everything my father had planned long before he died. The next morning, the city felt colder than usual. Not just the temperature, but the kind of chill that seeps into your bones when you realize the truth about your family. Clifton and I stood by his old Ford pickup in silence. The map from my father's letter spread across the hood. The red X marked an abandoned industrial zone on the outskirts of Detroit, a place I hadn't been since I was a kid. My father used to drive past it on our way to the park, always locking the doors as we passed. Back then, I thought it was just a bad neighborhood. Now I knew it was where he hid the truth. We drove for nearly an hour through fog and cracked streets until the skyline faded into rusting warehouses and graffiti-covered walls. Clifton parked behind a collapsed fence, glancing at me. "You sure you want to do this?" I nodded. My father left that map for a reason. Whatever he hid there, it's time we know. The warehouse loomed ahead. Gray steel, broken windows, and the faint sound of dripping water echoing through the empty lot. I pushed open the door, the hinges screaming in protest. Inside, dust floated like ghosts in the dim light streaming through the roof. Then I saw it. A locked storage cage in the corner, marked with faded paint that read Thorn Shipping Co. "Looks like Dad never really left this place," I said, forcing a weak laugh. Clifton crouched beside the lock and cut it open with a bolt cutter he'd brought. The cage door swung open to reveal a small metal cabinet. Inside were binders, envelopes, and a single dusty hard drive wrapped in plastic. On top was a note in my father's handwriting. "If you're reading this, you've found the truth. What we uncovered destroyed lives, including ours. Keep it hidden or finish what I couldn't." I turned to Clifton. "What is this?" He looked at the hard drive and went pale. "It's evidence," he whispered. "Your father and I were accountants for Reddington and Chase, a company tied to the cartel. We found out they were funneling drug money through real estate developments. When your father tried to expose it, they came after us. I wanted to run, but he stayed to protect you." My knees felt weak. I leaned against the wall, trying to process it all. My father had faked his brother's death, taken the blame, and sacrificed everything to keep me safe. "Why didn't he tell the police?" I asked. Clifton's eyes darkened. "Because the police were in on it. Half the department was paid off. That's why he went into hiding. That's why I had to disappear." I opened the hard drive's case, revealing a USB connector. "So this could prove everything?" He nodded. "It could, but it also makes you a target." Before I could respond, a noise echoed through the warehouse. Footsteps. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Clifton motioned for me to stay quiet. We ducked behind a row of old crates. A beam of light cut through the darkness. Someone was searching the warehouse with a flashlight. "Check the east side," a voice barked. Two men in black jackets moved through the shadows, their boots crunching over broken glass. One of them carried a gun. My heart pounded so loudly I thought they'd hear it. Clifton whispered, "They must have followed us." "They know we found it," I swallowed hard. "What do we do?" He glanced at the exit. "We run. But not without this." He grabbed the hard drive and slipped it into his coat. We crept toward the back door, every step feeling like it could be our last. Just as we reached it, a flashlight hit us. "Hey, stop!" A gunshot rang out, echoing through the empty warehouse. Metal sparked beside my head as a bullet hit a beam. We sprinted into the alley, lungs burning, rain pouring from the gray sky. Clifton pulled me behind the truck, breathing hard. "We can't go home. They'll be waiting. We need to disappear, just like your father did." And as the sirens wailed in the distance, I finally understood. This wasn't just about a lost wallet anymore. I had stumbled into a story of corruption, betrayal, and bloodlines that refused to stay buried. The truth had found me, and it wasn't letting go. We didn't stop driving until the sun dipped below the horizon. The city lights disappeared in the rearview mirror, swallowed by endless miles of farmland and silence. Clifton gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. The rain that had chased us from Detroit was gone, but the tension in the air was thick as ever. Finally, he pulled into an old service road and parked behind an abandoned gas station. "We'll be safe here for a while," he muttered, cutting the engine. The sound of crickets filled the night. I sat there in silence, staring at the hard drive between us on the dashboard, the small black piece of plastic that had turned my world upside down. "What happens now?" I finally asked. Clifton rubbed his face, exhausted. "Now we find out who's still pulling the strings. The men who came after us today, they weren't random thugs. They were sent. By who?" He turned toward me, his eyes filled with old ghosts. "The same man who ruined your father's life. The one who ordered my disappearance." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out an old photograph. It showed 3 men in suits standing in front of a skyscraper. One was my father. The second was Clifton. And the third, tall, broad-shouldered, with a sharp grin, was a man I recognized instantly. "Wait, that's Harold Crane," I whispered. "The real estate mogul. He owns half the city." Clifton nodded grimly. "He was our boss at Reddington and Chase. He built his empire on blood money, and your father found out. When your dad tried to expose him, Crane turned the company, the cops, and even the press against him. Your father faked my death to protect me, and you." My stomach turned. "You're saying the man on every billboard downtown, the philanthropist who donates millions to charity, is a criminal?" "Not just a criminal," Clifton said. "He's the reason your father lived the rest of his life in fear. The reason you grew up cleaning offices instead of sitting in boardrooms." The night suddenly felt suffocating. I stared at the stars, thinking about how my life had been shaped by lies from powerful men who never even knew my name. Clifton opened his laptop, connected the hard drive, and began typing. Lines of encrypted files filled the screen: transaction logs, shell company names, offshore accounts. "Your father kept records of every illegal deal Crane made from 1987 to 2004, he explained. This is enough to bring him down for good." Before I could respond, a soft ping came from the laptop. A notification blinked in the corner of the screen. "Incoming connection, R-Corp network, authorized access." "Wait," I said. "They're tracking us?" Clifton's eyes widened. "No. Someone's trying to access the files remotely. They must have detected the hard drive reconnecting. Can you stop it?" "I can try." His fingers flew across the keyboard, but the screen flickered and then static. The laptop shut down completely. "Damn it," he cursed, slamming his fist on the steering wheel. "They wiped everything. Every file, every name, then it's over?" I asked, my voice trembling. Clifton shook his head slowly. "No, not over. Your father planned for this." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small flash drive wrapped in duct tape. "He gave me this before he disappeared. Told me to give it to you when the time was right." My pulse quickened as I took it from him. "What's on it?" "I don't know," he said. "He made me promise never to open it." I turned the tiny device in my hand. It felt impossibly light, yet it carried decades of buried truth. Before I could plug it into the laptop, headlights appeared in the distance. A black SUV, then another, then a third. "They found us," I whispered. Clifton grabbed the keys. "Hold on." The tires screeched as we sped away, dirt and gravel spraying behind us. The SUVs followed, engines roaring through the night. I clutched the flash drive tightly, praying it wouldn't slip from my hand. "This isn't just about your father anymore," Clifton said through gritted teeth. "If Crane wants this drive that badly, it means what's on it could destroy him, and maybe everyone tied to him, and us." I asked. He glanced at me, determination burning in his eyes. "We'll survive, but to do that, we have to finish what your father started." As the headlights closed in behind us, one truth became painfully clear. This was no longer a story about returning a wallet. It was a war over legacy, lies, and the price of doing the right thing, no matter the cost. The tires screamed as we tore down the empty highway, headlights slicing through the darkness. Clifton gripped the wheel, knuckles pale against the leather, his eyes flicking constantly to the rearview mirror. 3 black SUVs followed close behind, their engines humming like predators circling prey. "Hold on!" he shouted as we veered off the main road and into an overgrown service path. The car jolted violently, branches scraping against the sides. After a mile, Clifton slammed the brakes and killed the headlights. We sat in darkness, panting, hearts pounding in sync. The SUVs thundered past on the main road, their lights fading into the distance. For the first time in hours, there was silence. "Are they gone?" I whispered. "For now," Clifton replied. "But they'll be back. Crane doesn't let go easily." I looked down at the flash drive clutched in my hand. My father's final message. My inheritance. My curse. Clifton nodded toward a dimly lit gas station up the hill. "We'll use their Wi-Fi, but once we open this, there's no going back." Inside, the gas station was eerily quiet. A sleepy clerk sat behind the counter, earbuds in, barely looking up as we entered. We settled at a corner table, opened the laptop, and inserted the drive. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a folder appeared on the screen labeled "For my son." My throat tightened. My father's handwriting flashed across the screen in an old scanned letter. "Ruben, if you're reading this, then the lies have finally come undone. I wish I could have told you the truth myself, but the world I tried to protect you from was too dangerous. Crane wasn't just my boss. He was my partner, and my greatest mistake. We built our company on stolen money, taken from war relief funds meant for families in Europe. When I realized what he'd done, it was too late. I tried to turn him in, but Crane made sure I paid the price. He took everything. My business, my reputation, and my brother. Clifton didn't die. I sent him away to keep him safe, and I sent you away too. To a family that could give you a life untouched by this darkness. But they failed you, son, and for that I will never forgive myself. There's one final thing you must know. Crane's real fortune isn't built on business. It's built on blackmail, files, photos, and documents hidden in a vault beneath Reddington Tower. If you expose it, you'll destroy him. But you'll also destroy everyone who stood by him. Judges, senators, CEOs. The decision is yours. Whatever you choose, do it for yourself, not for revenge. Your father, Dennis Thorne. By the time I finished reading, my hands were trembling. He knew all along, I whispered. He knew Crane would come for me. Clifton's face was pale. He was trying to give you a choice. To end what he started, or walk away. Before I could respond, the gas station lights flickered, then went out completely. The clerk looked up, confused. Power outage? No. I knew that sound. The low hum of engines outside. They found us again, Clifton said, grabbing the laptop. I stuffed the flash drive into my pocket. There's a back exit, the clerk shouted, pointing toward the storage room. We sprinted through it just as the front door exploded inward. Gunshots rang out. I ducked behind a shelf, heart racing. Clifton fired back. 1, 2 shots, then yelled, Run, Reuben! Get to the car! I bolted out the back, rain pouring down in sheets. The sound of footsteps followed, heavy, determined. When I reached the car, I turned, but Clifton wasn't behind me. Clifton! I screamed. A man in a black coat stepped out of the shadows instead. Harold Crane himself. Even in the chaos, his presence was chilling, calm, controlled. Mr. Thorne, he said softly, adjusting his cufflinks. You have something that belongs to me. My pulse pounded. You mean my father's truth? Crane smirked. Truth is a luxury only the powerful can afford. Hand it over, and I'll let you walk away. Rain dripped from my hair into my eyes, but I didn't blink. I could feel the flash drive pressing against my thigh. Everything my father died to protect. No, I said, my voice shaking but steady. You already took my family once. You won't take his legacy too. Crane's smile vanished. He raised a gun. Then from behind him, a gunshot. Crane froze, eyes wide, then collapsed to his knees. Clifton stood behind him, wounded but alive, his gun still smoking. Go, he said through gritted teeth. Finish it. Do what your father couldn't. As Crane's men scrambled, I ran toward the car, soaked and shaking, clutching the flash drive like it was life itself. The storm raged on, but for the first time, I wasn't running away. I was running toward the truth. The morning light crept through the cracked windshield as I sat in the driver's seat, staring at the flash drive in my hand. The rain had stopped, but the storm inside me hadn't. Clifton was gone, taken away in an ambulance after the firefight. He'd saved my life, just like my father once did. I drove until I reached the city skyline, Reddington Tower, tall and cold against the sunrise. The building where my father's empire fell and Crane's corruption grew. In my pocket was the power to destroy it all. I walked through the lobby unnoticed, past men in suits who had no idea their entire world was hanging by a thread. In a small cyber cafe across the street, I opened my laptop and stared at the folder again, for my son. Inside were the files, the evidence, everything. My father's sins, Crane's crimes, proof that would change everything. My hands hovered over the keyboard. One click, and the truth would be everywhere. News channels, government offices, the world. But it would also destroy the people who had nothing to do with it. Employees, families, children. Innocents who would pay for my father's mistakes. I closed my eyes and thought of him. The man who built his empire with his hands, who fell trying to do the right thing in the end. So I made my choice. I uploaded only part of the evidence, enough to expose Crane and clear my father's name, but not enough to destroy lives. Then I deleted the rest. As I walked outside, the first headline appeared on my phone. Corporate giant exposed in billion-dollar scandal. I smiled faintly. My father's truth was finally free, and so was I.